Hi everyone, this is Esther Martinez, and we're back with another masterclass in the People Matters virtual learning series. Today's masterclass is on the topic of purpose-driven organizations and a new narrative. I think it is very interesting and typical, critical theme that we are going to be covering today, because in these turbulent times, the entire organization really needs to align to that purpose, and purpose becomes more important than ever before, but it needs to be contextualized in this new narrative. So joining us for this exclusive session, we have Luigi Maria Fiero. He's the Global Head HR Strategy and Transformation at ING. Hi, Luigi. A very warm welcome.
Hi, everybody. My pleasure to be
How
here.
are you doing this morning?
Good, cannot complain. Lovely day in Amsterdam, full of sun and full of energy for this session.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks, Luigi, for joining us. So Luigi heads the ING HR Strategy and Transformation, and he's leading the future strategic agenda and the implementation of all the new HR operating models globally. So during his journey at ING, he had performance management as well before, and he had redesigned the group's new performance management framework, and he had ensured its full implementation across 55,000 employees globally. So it's very excited to have you with us, Luigi, and very warm welcome once again to the masterclass. So before we get started, and Luigi is going to share with us the ING story of creating a self-driven purpose organization and how that actually affected employee engagement and productivity across the globe. But before we start, we've created and curated a series of questions for all of you to get you started on this topic. So if you can see, again, inviting all sorry, apologies. So if I may invite you all to go to menti.com, very quickly you will see the screen coming with the code 730684. And the first question we've curated, there are 3 questions and they're all interlinked. So bear with us. So the first question is, do you believe that you work in an organization that has a purpose defined? Is that purpose defined? The first answer is yes. We have a defined purpose. No, we don't really have a purpose that it's truly defined. And maybe I don't know. So let's see what we get. And of course, the second and the third question builds into this. So we'll just wait for a few seconds to get everyone to respond. And I'm going to ask you, Luigi, what you had in mind when you curated this question and whether it's surprising you to see that the answers coming in just a minute. So, okay, so we have 20 plus already coming in. So what was your thought process, Luigi, when we curated this first question? What were you expecting to see?
Yeah, what I see is what I was expecting. So that the element of purpose at macro level, at organizational level, is something that everybody is a bit aware. Every single company is investing on it. Every single company is aware about the fact that the purpose definition somehow can create a value. So I'm really glad to see this result, because I consider this, let me say, the baseline or the starting point of our discussion. So we start from a moment where each of us, we know that we're working in a company with a purpose. But then the next question is, are we taking the most out of it?
Yes.
So this 37 respondent, then the question would be, is this purpose creating value? Are you using it? And considering the current situation with the COVID, how this purpose is helping the personal resilience. But we're going to go through that in the next 30 minutes.
Yeah. So, Luigi, what do you think about this pink area that no, we don't? Does it surprise you that there are still organizations that don't have something that they call purpose, whatever that is? Is it surprising you?
Yes and no. Let me say that yes, it's surprising, because purpose is a kind of buzzword. So especially in the people area, let me say, everybody wants to be in a purpose-driven organization, and everybody wants to work agile, whatever it means. So I'm a bit surprised that some companies, they don't have the element of a purpose or agile in their, let me say, people offer, because it's also a way you position on the market. But on the other side, especially for smaller organizations, sometimes they are not in the level of maturity or complexity to formally state the purpose as a proxy of their culture and strategic direction. So probably implicitly they have a purpose. Implicitly, the founder of the organization and the employers of the organization, they share common set of values, direction, and commitment, but this has not been formalized. So I can see that maybe some small companies, they do not have a purpose. If this is coming from a large corporation, wow, interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to apply for a job there to do something on the purpose. Let me say
I think you'll have a lot of work, Luigi, going forward when we see the next question. So let's go and see the next question on for some of us who have a purpose. How many of us are actually fully utilizing that? And I can see many of you joining us in the LinkedIn Live. It'll be great to see where you're joining us from. So as you say hi, it'll be great to also get a sense about where all you are coming from. And it gives us that energy as well as we see each one of you joining us. So a few seconds to answer this question. How much do you think your company's purpose is clearly defined? So the first answer is yes, very well crafted, very well defined. Second is somehow, somewhat defined, but somewhere not that fully clear. Poorly defined and not defined at all. I think that's where we're going to start seeing a little bit of more granularity in the composition of the group today.
Yeah. And the numbers, they are, let me say, quite interesting. While I see the number appearing, let me share a bit like this is a bit of a misleading on purpose question. The reason why is because if something is clearly defined, is because either it's defined properly at the beginning or it's because the communication is done properly. So it's a combination of sending a message and receiving a message. And also there is the element of how much the message is appealing to our employees, so how much they can recognize themselves. So here exactly what I see is that like, okay, you can have a purpose. I'm quite happy to see that a lot of people, they consider that clearly defined, but then you have a higher increase of people that they start saying that is not very clear, is not giving the direction. How do I use it? Or is even poorly defined. It means that if I want to simplify the reality, in a lot of companies, we have just a statement on the wall. We hope it's creating value. Finger crossed, someone is going to do something with this.
Yeah.
But then our colleagues are telling us, okay, it's a nice statement. How can I use it? What I have to do with this? How does it fit our daily activity? How does it fit the way we want to evolve? So these numbers are quite interesting.
Yeah. So it's what would you have expected? Is this the numbers that you were expecting to see, or you would have seen maybe the pink a little bigger, maybe?
Pink a little bit up, to be honest. So I'm positively surprised by this 34.
Yes.
And then the reflection is, and I'm positively surprised for two reasons. First of all, it means that the element of purpose is something that a lot of companies are taking seriously. And second, especially in this moment of, let me say, in this difficult period for all of us, of changing the way of working, on going through a pandemic, on going through personal and working challenges, if people that can recognize in the purpose, they can see the purpose, is a value added for them from a point of view of personal resilience. So the number are more positive than I was expecting, to be honest.
Very nice. Very nice. Do you feel if we would have done this question maybe 3 months ago, maybe would not have been, do you think that the situation we're in has helped organizations reconnect back with purpose and what it really truly means to fight this up together?
I think so. And the reason why is because we are also trying to understand what other corporations are doing in this moment of difficulties in terms of going through the next 12, 18, and 24 months. And the purpose elements, based on our understanding, is one of the several top priorities of the different people functions. So I can expect that a lot of companies, they have done investment probably in the last 3-6 months in terms of connecting their workforce with a purpose, connecting their people with the work with the purpose, maybe even launching initiatives related to individual purpose definition. So I can guess that before the COVID, before the current situation, maybe the blue would have been a bit smaller.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's quickly move to the third question, and
Yeah.
I'm going to do that quicker. So I want to make sure we have enough time for everything else we have to cover today. So the last question is, how often do you think your organization is leveraging the concept of the purpose to improve performance and linking it back to performance of the business? So first is often. Let's put, often enough, sometimes, rarely, or I don't know. No comments. Try to avoid the last one if possible, so then we get a bigger sense of the group. And we'll do this little quicker as we move to the session. Yes. All right. Let's have a look at the answers.
Okay, what I see out of the number is a bit like what I was expecting while crafting the three questions, right? So
Yeah.
we have a purpose.
Yeah.
Luckily is clearly defined, so I understand it. But then if we are using that in terms of as a strategic advantage, as a way to increase the value creation for the business and for the company, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm positively surprised because I was expecting the red to be a bit higher, to
Yeah.
be honest.
Very nice. Very nice.
And also the blue to be a bit lower. But
Yeah.
again, this is a very positive surprise.
Yeah.
Maybe we are also a bit more biased given the audience that a
Yeah.
lot of us, we are people professional.
That's fair.
So maybe there is a bit of, let me say, implicit or vested interest in the
Yeah.
outcome of the questionnaire. But this is what I see. There is a purpose. Somehow I understand the purpose. Are we using that? Yes and no, but a bit more no than yes. So there is a bit of room of improvement.
Very nice. Very nice. So there's that opportunity
Yes,
to be a
definitely.
lot more creative and to really think how more we can actually reconnect the purpose to day to business performance and create
Absolutely
that
correct.
impact. Great. Okay. So let's move now quickly to our session. And I'm going to request Luigi, I think you've prepared a small deck for us. And
Yeah.
please feel free to keep sending questions on the chat, because we're going to be taking questions in another 15, 20 minutes, 25 minutes after Luigi's presentation. So please feel free to keep sharing the questions, and I'll just keep compiling them for you as we finish the session. So over to you, Luigi.
Thanks a lot. I'm going to share my screen indeed. Perfect. I hope that all of you can see my screen. So let me start a very short introduction about myself. I'm working in ING and I'm Amsterdam based, and my role is the global head of HR strategy and transformation. Is a long job title. Sometimes I call myself the global head of garbage. So what I try to do is to try to think and to work on what should be fixed, what should be scale up, what should be changed from an HR point of view. So I'm exploring elements like operating model implementation for HR, craftsmanship for HR, even like new normals, including on the non-financial risk domain. And today I would like to cover a bit of a reflection of the ING journey in the last year on the purpose side. So let me start with an overview of the ING. So ING is a global financial institution, and we have more than 50,000 employees covering all the different geographies. It means that is a international companies with a lot of different cultures. We have 9 corporate languages, and also serving 35 million customers with different needs based on the culture, based on the country specificities, and based on the fact if they are retail, wholesale banking, and so on. Based on that, obviously, like several companies, and was also one of the outcome of the survey, we invested a lot in the last year in our own definition of the purpose of ING. That you can see on the slide on the bottom is empowering people to stay a step ahead in life and in business. Now, what I would like to reflect with you is that also, like you answer in the small survey, the value of the purpose is something that is quite clear to a lot of companies. So a lot of companies, they understand that a purpose that is clearly defined, clearly communicated and understood can bring value for the business. Operating financial value, economic value, and a lot of performance indicator, forward-looking performance indicator are showing an improvement, for example, of the ability to execute if there is a clear purpose statement. Still, and again, the previous survey was showing us a bit that path. The question that I would like to discuss with you is if actually we are leveraging the full value of the purpose, how we can actually think about taking most and more out of the value of the purpose, and especially which is the role of HR. This is a presentation that I prepared for the February session that we are planning to have in Singapore. Now that I was giving a look to this, now that we are in May, actually I believe that this is becoming even more relevant. And indeed, in terms of the value creation of the purpose, I'm also want to add some of the latest reflection connected to the pandemic situation and the new normal that we are living now. Let me start with the definition of what I have in mind in terms of moving from a purpose-driven organization to a purpose self-driven organization. A purpose self-driven organization is an organization where there is the opportunity per every single employee to define their own purpose. They can understand how their own purpose is fitting the one of the company. So let me say, they can check in, they can compare, they can align their own purpose with the company one. They can understand indeed how their own purpose is also fitting their professional career that they're having in the company. And based on that, they can try to take conscious decision. Why this is important based on, at least from my point of view, because whenever you take conscious decision about your professional career that could be inside or outside of the company, implicitly the level of engagement and implicitly then probably also the value creation is increasing. Why? Because there is a lot of, let me say, research that is showing that consciousness is the first step to take like actions. So if I start becoming more conscious about my professional path, if I start becoming more conscious about my role and how my professional journey is fitting what I would like to do from my personal purpose, I can take more proper decision. I can take more conscious decision. And the decision could even be about leaving the company. But if I take the decision about staying in the company and stay in my role, most likely I'm going to be more engaged. And the increase of engagement, there is a lot of research that is showing that can lead to improve of financial results. So this is indeed the next step, because when we define in terms of, okay, what do we mean with a purpose self-driven organization, the next question would be why? Why we should invest on this? Which is the value? These are three values, what a value creation element, what you see on the slide, and I'm going to add a fourth one that is the current reflection I'm going through now, given this moment of change. The first one is that a purpose self-driven organization can support the development of company performances. The second one is the concept of achieving a healthy turnover. The last one is the attractiveness to the knowledge nomads. And I would also add an element of increasing the personal resilience. So let me go a bit in order through them. I think already we discussed a bit the first part, the company high performances. Why? Because before we just said that better purpose, better alignment can lead to conscious decision, higher engagement. And there is a lot of research that is connecting the level of engagement with expected economic results. But let's indeed investigate or elaborate a bit more the second, the healthy turnover and the knowledge nomads. The healthy turnover is the concept that, as I was saying, understanding your purpose and how does it fit with your company can also lead you to decide to change your path outside the company. This is creating an increase of the voluntary leaving, and indeed people that maybe are at the end of the journey with the company in terms of passion, alignment, shared journey, they decide about changing. So they're gonna change before the company is asking them to change. And in this way, we're gonna, let me say, avoid to have part of our employee population that is in the last mile of their, let me say, working experience with the company, where the level of engagement is decreasing, and indeed also the productivity, the problem solving, and the commitment is decreasing. So we can increase the turnover of people that they would like to leave, and also the relationship with the employees when the employees is leaving based on his own or her own choice is going to improve. Knowledge nomads. Knowledge nomads is a category of people that actually they tend to change company more often than before, and this is typical of also the new generation. And quite often the way they check in with a company is through the purpose. So they're looking for companies that are having a purpose that is matching what they want, the value that they want to create, and their commitment. So having a clear purpose and having the possibility for your employees to check in with this can attract also different type of professionals. The last one is the element of the personal resilience. It's not on the slide, but what I'm thinking currently is that progressively the companies have been moved actually in the last 3-6 months from strategic resilience, where the market is going, and how I'm gonna make sure that I can still deliver and create value in the market. Operational resilience, how do I make sure that whatever is up in my operation are up and running for my customer and my employees, to personal resilience. So how do I make sure that my employees, that my colleagues, that my company is safe and healthy from a well-being point of view? How can people that can go through difficult times, how they can feel valued, how they can feel engaged? And the element of purpose, the reinforcement of the connection of the purpose of your work with the broader purpose of the company is increasing this level of commitment. So somehow the personal resilience is improving, and indeed the company performance is, let's say, at higher level. Okay, so we discussed the what I believe could be a definition of a purpose self-driven organization, the why I believe such an organization can create the value. Now I would like to explore a bit the how. So in my opinion, and based on the experience of the ING journey, there are, let me say, 4 main drivers of change, or 4 main areas that we should address if we want to go through such of a change. The first one is the purpose definition. The second one are framework and processes, way of working, and strategic focus. Purpose definition means that we have to make sure that every single employee has the possibility of defining their own purpose. So as a company, we have to roll out initiatives that are supporting from managers to employees to find their own purpose in life and in business. The second element is thinking about, especially from an HR process point of view, how our processes, our people offer is leveraging on the purpose on a daily basis. I'm gonna then in the next page give you an example on this specific on ING, but the concept is that if you allow people to define their own purpose, unless they can use it during their, let me say, working life, during, I don't want to say their daily activity, but almost, then why I should bother to have a purpose if I do not have a way to check in? Connected to that, there is also the way of working. So the way of working, the organizational structure, I'm thinking about the agile, they should go in the direction about allowing to check in and to have a clear, let me say, understanding of the purpose. Last one is the strategic focus. So if you ask people to define their own purpose, you have to make sure that you can communicate to them where the company is going. because otherwise, and where the company wants to invest and to especially invest in the development of the employees. Otherwise, for the people, it's a bit more difficult to understand if their direction, their purpose is in line with the one of the company. Okay, all of this sounds a bit fluffy, I know. So let me go to the next page where I can share with you a bit of some example of the ING experience. Again, these are examples, doesn't mean they're right, they're wrong, it's just a way of approaching the how. Considering the time, because I think maybe there is going to be some question and I would like to give you a bit of time back, I'm going to focus on two main elements, the framework and processes and the way of working. Framework and processes. An example in ING is that like one of the first effort that we have done in terms of including the element of purpose and passion within a people offer or a people process has been on the performance management side. So we redesign our performance management process and framework to make sure that on top of your job and values, so your what and your how, stretch ambition. So the possibility of defining a target, an objective, a goal that is linked to your purpose, that is linked to your passion. Could be linked to your job, could be linked to the values, could be linked to whatever in the company, whatever is generating value for the company, but is especially driven and defined by the employees, leveraging on the purpose. It means you can see very easily that as an employee, I have the chance of defining my purpose, and during the performance management, I can use the purpose to understand, okay, what I would like to deliver, what I would like to achieve. Following my purpose, what would be an aspirational, a dream objective I would like to focus on during the next year. Connected to that, the other example is the way of working. ING is, let me say, quite well known in the market to be one of the leading financial institutions on the agile transformation. Our agile transformation, again, to oversimplify, is based on approach with Tribe and Squad. So the approach where we have Squad, a team of 7, 9 FTs, employees working together end-to-end on a project, an activity, and all of them, then they are part of different tribes. Why this is connected to the element of purpose? Because in the way we define our squad, in the way we define our tribe, we give the possibility to our colleagues to define a squad purpose and a tribe purpose. So you see, from a conceptual point of view, you're going to have individual purpose, squad purpose, and tribe purpose. Squad purpose is a purpose of a group of 9 people. So most likely, your ability about checking in what you do, the purpose that you have with the purpose of the squad is higher. So you can recognize your value creation, you can recognize your alignment versus the squad more easily towards like the company purpose. So you can avoid what can happen sometimes when there is a disconnection between an overall company statement that is quite maybe high level and your individual purpose statement that is more detailed, more related to yourself. So in this context, I want to recap, focusing on the last element is the role of HR. I think we discuss in terms of purpose is something that is a buzzword. Everybody's discussing about the purpose and everybody can recognize the value of the purpose. Still, I believe there is the chances for every single company to start a journey to get the most out of the value of the purpose, potentially exploring the opportunity of going through a self-driven purpose organization. That it means like purpose defined at a more granular level, alignment of organizational design and way of working, alignment of processes, alignment of strategies. As you see, in all of this discussion, HR can play definitely an important role. Almost, let me say, a pivotal role, because we're going to touch from a people side, from a people component, the overall company. We are going to work with communication and branding on the purpose definition. We're going to work on the definition of the way the company should be organized from a way of working, the organizational design, the organizational effectiveness. we're going to discuss in terms of how our people process can support such a change. We're going to be part of the strategic discussion in terms of where do we want to invest our money. So HR can definitely play a leading role on this. And my tip of advice on this is always with an holistic and pragmatic approach. This is a journey. We started, for example, Agile in ING more than 10 years ago. And also with the purpose, we started like several years ago with several different initiatives that now they're coming all together. So my suggestion is set up a direction, set up a commitment, but always have an holistic and pragmatic approach where step by step, you do a retrospective, you check and you adapt. Because there is not, let me say, the silver bullet, or there is not one solution that is fitting all. Every single company is different, like the purpose of each of us is different. So thank you from my side. I think we covered, let me say, quite a bit of content in like 20-25 minutes. So more than happy now to listen to any additional question, and thanks a lot for listening to me today. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Luigi, for taking us through the what, the why, and through the examples of the how. And I've got a lot of questions. Let's see how many we can cover. I'm going to start with the first question from Savvy Sims. His question is, how does organization purpose synchronize with personal purpose? How do we make that connect happen?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And obviously, doesn't mean that always the company purpose and individual purpose are going to be synchronized. What we have to set up are mechanisms for the synchronization. And I think the key element, at least for us in ING, has been the element of having purpose at squad and tribe level. So the more you can create some granular purposes within the organization, connected to business line, connected to organizational structure, the more it's going to be easy for the people to synchronize. Again, think about I'm part of a team and I have a team purpose. That is going to be easier for me to check in versus the overall company purpose.
So how do we, and that's a follow-up question a little bit, how do we help? And of course, the purpose is you have to give the freedom to the individual and the team to design that purpose in the umbrella or the context of the organization. How do you ensure it's aligned and doesn't misalign people saying, okay, this is my purpose, this is my team's purpose, and now in a way I'm kind of not really aligned because I've been given an opportunity to define it. So hence I may define it in a way that it's not aligned to the organizational purpose. How do you help that alignment to happen?
I'm back. I think I got disconnected. Maybe the question was like too complex and someone was helping me by disconnecting automatically. So apologies. I have asked you to repeat the question.
So yes, of course. So how do you make sure that there is an alignment between the organizational purpose and the team's purpose and the individual's purpose? So then all the efforts are actually in one trajectory, in one direction.
The alignment is something that is happening almost automatically. So there is not like a conscious effort in terms of all the purpose that should be in the same direction. But if you think about, you have your company purpose, and then you go one level down and you have a purpose of like the 200 people that are working on a specific product, on a specific segment. And then within that group of people, you're going to have sub-teams. Progressively, the purpose, they're going to go all together into the same direction. And this is the nice part, that you don't have to invest in terms of aligning anything. The things automatically they're going to come together. And again, whenever someone doesn't feel that his own purpose is in line with the one of the team or the company, progressively they're going to also realize that maybe it's time to change. Maybe it's time to change within the company or outside the company.
Understood. Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks so much. So there's a question from Darren about, we talk about purpose. So how is that different from mission and vision? And I know sometimes this is just terminologies, but how is purpose different from mission and vision?
Yeah, it's a good question. And the way I see the difference in the two, especially when you think about the purpose of the individual, is something that belongs to you irrespective of the strategy. especially at the individual level, is what is making you happy, what is making you engage, what is making you like waking up and spending time with your family, with your friends, or at work. When you move at company, is a bit, let me say, the same, because the purpose is how we can think about and creating value, and then the mission and the vision could be a translation of that. So, but they are obviously highly interconnected.
Wonderful. Thank you. Cheryl is, okay, let me see, which one do we choose? We have lots of them, and I'm going to have to invite you, Luigi, to go to the chat later in the day to answer more questions, because we have only another 10 minutes to go. There is a question specific about how do we get purpose? Is purpose separate from the way we operate in the organizational day-to-day? Or is it integrated in everything we do? And that's part of one of the questions we had in the opening. How do we integrate purpose in the day-to-day?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think we have to try to integrate purpose as much as possible into our activities and the way we operate on a day-to-day basis. Why? Again, because otherwise the statement of the purpose is just a statement on the wall, and we don't take, let me say, the value creation out of it. How you do it is by giving a critical look to your processes. And when I say processes, you can imagine also like from your people offer, what you offer from a talent point of view, from a performance point of view, and asking yourself critically, can the purpose can play a role in that? And if yes, how? Again, the example that I can give you is definitely on the performance management. When you set up some targets and some objectives, if someone has a purpose, you have to give to that person the opportunity about chipping in with their purpose within the definition of the targets. In the same way, if you want to have a talent development strategy and someone has a specific purpose and passions, you can make this person developing in line with that purpose and passion. Then to avoid to become, let me say, a philanthropic organization where we support every type of, let me say, personal development and every type of development investment, then you have to be clear in terms of which is the strategic direction. Yeah. Meaning you have to be clear, we are going to invest on the data side. We are going to invest on the leadership. We are going to invest on whatever you want. So as a company, this is our direction of investment, especially on your people side. So if your purpose and interest is in line with that, perfect. We have a great deal and we can co-invest. If by chance you want to take a completely different direction because this is what is giving you passion, this is great. Let's see if there is something in our organization. Otherwise, we're going to support you. Let me say, you can find something outside. This is the idea when I say that we have to make sure that our processes, even from a principle and conceptual point of view, they allow people to use their purpose. And on the other side, to give transparency in terms of which is the direction, to avoid to promise that we can support everybody for everything in any direction. And this doesn't make sense for two reasons. We don't have always all the money. And the second, you cannot have 59 different priorities in every single direction. This means like no moving from a strategic point of view and from a value creation point of view.
Yeah, and I think that's what you mentioned as well during your session about healthy turnover. That if you're going to have people within your organization who are somewhere not finding that alignment, then it's a good opportunity to have that honest conversation as well.
And this becomes even, again, we are an international company, so we cover different markets. In every single market, there are different level of maturity in terms of the job market, and also in terms of, let me say, from an overall GDP and an economical point of view. And you can think that a healthy turnover in situations like the Western Europe is even creating more value than maybe in other international contexts. Because in Western Europe, we have more social responsibility, the economic is different, and also for the people finding different opportunities outside the company could be more complicated. So the healthy turnover can even create more value in Western Europe than in other geographies.
Yeah. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Thanks, Luigi. So there's a question related to measurability, specific on saying how do we measure whether our brand is living up to the purpose? What are some of the indicators?
Yeah. Overall, in ING, we use as a leading indicator what is called the OHI, Organizational Health Index, and that is an international survey that is checking, let me say, the outcome and the practices. The outcome, to oversimplify, is I want to lose weight, and the practices is I sleep well, I train, and I eat well. So what we do, we always check if the outcome of all of our intervention is actually improving. And indeed, we can have practices like the role clarity that are improving because my purpose is more defined, my targets are better defined, and the role clarity is improving. It means we are not looking for a direct measurement because we, let me say, part that is complex. We do not always believe that it could be very easy to set up a direct measurement, but we use the OHI as a full proxy of the improvement of our practices and indeed the long-term value creation. Is Organizational Health Index Survey.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Thanks, Luigi. So last question for you, and you mentioned that this is a journey, and you also mentioned that this has been a 10-year journey for ING, and probably there's still a lot more to achieve and a lot more to improve. And you spoke about direction. I think in the context of COVID-19, what will be your recommendation for some organizations that are in starting that journey? They may not really have the luxury of such a long mind of saying, okay, this is a 10-year journey. What are some of the low-hanging fruits that you say, some quick wins that you can get as a HR professional to get that commitment from the business, saying that this is a journey, but what are some of the low-hanging fruits that we can start with?
Yeah, and let me first say that I think the COVID-19 is offering us the opportunity to refocus on what we believe can make the difference in the long term. And then definitely we have priority on the short term, but they should be, let me say, the first step of our long-term priority. So we always have to invest in something that we believe is going to create the value in the long term. When I'm thinking about low-hanging fruit on the purpose side, for the next, let me say, 12, 18 months could be like starting intervention, virtual intervention for the leadership and the managers. So start making the leadership and the management understanding the value of it. And then scaling up the intervention to employees, to process review and process definition later on. You can maybe, and I'm thinking now really loud voice, connecting this with initiative connected to reconnecting with the company, the well-being, the engagement, the feeling part. So you can imagine you are a manager, maybe you're working from home or you're going to work from home for a while, but still the company is setting up something virtual where you and the other, you can define your own purpose even in a moment of crisis. This is showing commitment towards our employees who are investing on you. Again, simplified answer, the reality is always more complex and the context is almost changing, but think small.
Yeah.
Still having the long-term trajectory in mind.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Luigi. So
Welcome.
what will be your one star, one stop for all our audience today? Majority of them are HR professionals who may not particularly have a department or a function called, strategy and transformation. So what will be your one star, one stop advice as we close this session today?
Yeah. For me, the one start is starting discussing this. This is a journey. The 10 years was for the agile. The purpose took us like a bit less, but is a journey. So it's not something that you can implement like immediately or quickly. So my start is always like start discussing, even in this moment of change, saying, guys, in the long run, there is a value out of this. Let's start exploring the why. The stop for me would be maybe checking your like learning offer and training offer to understand what you can think about already, let me say, rationalize. Why? Because quite often, and by the way, in ING, this was defined and rolled out also through the talent and learning department, the rollout of such initiative is heavy from a time and investment. So if you already know which are the branches that you can cut in terms of investment, then with the management, you can say, it's going to be a zero-sum game. I'm going to stop ABC, I'm going to save some money, and we can try to get the value of the purpose. So this is the stopping of what is not creating value from a learning side. I think is going to free up capital for the investment.
Wonderful. Thank you so much,
Welcome.
Luigi,
My pleasure.
For being with us this morning. I think it was a fantastic session from, what it means, pivoting the meaning to a much more broader, and how you did it in ING, and also taking time to answer some of those questions with us. So thank you very, very much for your
pleasure
time.
Today. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
So with that, we'll close the session today. I'm excited to share with all of you that next week we're having another session on 5th of June. This is going to be at 3 p.m. Singapore time on navigating total rewards in the new normal. And we're going to have Puneet Swami from Mercer joining us for that. So this concludes today's session. I wish you all best of luck, stay safe, and we'll see you all very soon. Thank you.